My next question, though, as we look at the Raptors season, who's the most interesting story in terms of a player perspective from Toronto Raptors this season? Okay.
Mine is to see OG take that next step. We saw him level up last year, get even better, but I think that the skill set this kid has, and honestly, like the whole steez and his whole personality, I think is so special that it's something that the Raptors can really tap into. And a guy you talk about, that this is a guy in my mind that has to be top of the list on who you're going to re-sign and make part of this franchise going forward. I think his skill set is unbelievable. He only has room to grow. He's an excellent defender, but his whole demeanor, his whole like, yo, I'm serious, I'm never smiling, is so good and fits in so well with this team. It's incredible. And I think this year is a year you really see him, like we saw Pascal. Remember last year at the beginning of the year, halfway through the year, they're like, can somebody win a most improved player twice? It wouldn't shock me if OG takes that step and wins most improved player this year.
This has to be a good year for OG. I mean, it's been last year for sure. If you go back to the conversations people were having about OG Anunoby heading into last season, they were saying a lot of the same things this year. And while he looked good in spurts, it still wasn't consistent. I think you still want to see some consistent scoring to where my guy's at least averaging in that 12 to 15 points per game range. And he wasn't there last season. It wasn't there. You saw flashes. You saw glimpses of his offensive game improving. You saw his handle improve. I think his three-point shot improved. The defense is consistent. No doubt about that. But offensively, you want to see his game continue to evolve, because if he is a key piece of your team going forward, you need to be a little more than just a defensive stopper, right? Or the Raptors need to have a higher level of a superstar. Do you know what I'm saying? Absolutely. But at this point, the way that the team is currently constituted, you need more scoring consistently from OG. So, yeah, I agree with you. That is definitely an interesting storyline. But either way, I want to ask you, Webby, what do you think? Where do you think the Raptors will finish this season? What are your expectations for them this season?
Well, it's funny, right? Because it's not 1 through 8 are guaranteed a playoff spot. We've got a play-in tournament, right?
Yeah.
So, like, there's a couple of teams that made significant improvements, while the Raptors, I don't know if it is going to be addition by subtraction and losing the 2 older guys, but with the way that this team is coached, which is very well, and the way that this team has been put together by, like you say, by Bobby and by Masai, I would be hard-pressed to think that, you know, they're not going to be a top 7 seed. What is it? Is it the top 7 make the playoffs?
Yeah, so the play-in tournament is basically 7, 8, 9, and 10. That becomes a play-in tournament.
So they're definitely going to make the play-in, at least the play-in tournament. I think that if they make it any further above that, if they guarantee themselves a spot in the playoffs, I think that should be seen as a huge victory by Raptors fans.
To me, I 1,000% agree with you. Avoid the play-in tournament, and that should be deemed as a success, to me anyways, because this team will play hard because that's what they do. The one thing is the East did get better, right? I think that 6 to 10, 6 to 11, it's kind of like it's spicy, right? If you look at all those teams. So I think the East got better. I don't know if the Raptors did. They still have Kyle, but I think they miss Serge and Mark because of something we talk about a lot. Grown-ups. You need grown-ups that contribit on your team.
Is Kyle the only grown-up now? Is he really the only grown-up?
No, but I'm saying, like, you know, Fred's not young. Fred's not a young guy anymore. Pascal's not a young guy anymore.
These guys have all won a championship as well.
For sure. But those guys are like 3 years in the league, 4 years into the league. You know what I mean? Like, they've been in the league, yes. But I'm talking like vet, grown-ass, you know what you're going to get from these dudes. And, you know, when I'm saying you're losing 2 grown-ups in terms of, it's a thing that doesn't really show up in the stat sheet. But Marc Gasol and what he brought to the team, I know it was a fight I had with Raptors fans all season, but the ball movement when the offense stalled and Marc Gasol's ability to create an open shot for someone else or to just create extra added ball movement, that's going to be missed a lot. Ball movement is huge, especially in an offense when you don't have a guy that you can just dump it to and he can get a bucket. Look at Lakers Twitter right now, and they're falling in love with Marc Gasol during the preseason. They're all going crazy just watching what he's done to their offense. And then with Serge was massive for the Raps because when shit hit the fan, you could always run that pick and roll with Serge, and either my guy's going to get a bucket or he can pick and pop, hit a three. Serge could give you could count on Serge for that 12 to 14 points per game a night. And then if need be, if someone was hurt, or every once in a while, Serge would be able to hit you with a 20 to 25 point game. Where is that coming from now?
Yeah, not Aaron Baines.
Right? I don't think so. I don't really see it coming.
He gives you other things
for sure,
but he definitely doesn't give you that kind of ability, that offensive ability that Gasol or Ibaka had. Even though that they were completely different players, Aaron Baines isn't giving you either one of those things right now.
It's true, right? And so who does that now for the Raps? When you need, there's certain nights where it's like, oh, Fred didn't have a good shooting night. Is it going to be Norm that steps up consistently to give you that 20, to give you that 18? Is that going to be OG this year, right? Like there's just a lot of question marks if you ask me. And then the other part is vets are just better at handling depth in terms of knowing things like, oh, a lot of guys are down. I got to step up tonight. Right? Like they're knowing how to manage their way through a season. That's what I mean about grown-ups. And hey, I don't want people to take this as a knock against the Raptors because these are just question marks. But the one thing we know is the Raptors always play above expectations. And they're going to do that again.
Organization. That's what that is, right?
Because their bench unit now, you're looking at their bench now, and instead of Serge and Norm coming off the bench, it's going to be who? Norm, Matt Thomas, Chris Boucher. Those are your first bodies coming off the bench. Like that's not something that you're going to be able to rely on night in, night out in the NBA in a tough season where already you're being asked to play all road games because you're in Tampa. Like that's a lot for a team to go through. And I think the fact that the Raptors will come out of that and play pretty decent because of their organizational strength, that's the win. Do you know what I mean? I feel a lot of franchises would fold under these situations. Did you see the pictures today of where their practice facility is? It's a ballroom in a hotel.
It's like being back in the bubble.
Yeah, they converted a ballroom of a hotel into the Raptors practice facility. Crazy. Like I'm just saying this is a lot for a team to deal with. And so when I'm saying they're going to come in sixth, to me that's a massive accomplishment.
And man, that's
everything that they have to deal with.
That's what I mean about Nick Nurse, though. Mm-hmm. I mean, you say you haven't seen a lot of Coach of the Years going back to back, but man, taking a team to a different country, setting up shop there, getting rid of two veteran stars, guys who were all-stars, and taking this team and getting them into a top 6 seed, that would be an incredible job, and not one that I think is beyond what Nick Nurse can do as a coach, man. I've just been so impressed by him, and so is everybody else in the league.
Yeah, I mean, all road games because you're playing in Tampa. The practice facility, that's really just a ballroom in a hotel. You have some players who are still looking for places to live as of right now in Tampa. Oh, yeah, and all while still dealing with being in the middle of a pandemic. Like, that's a lot to overcome for this Raptors team, and I don't think many organizations would be able to deal at all with this, and they would fail just off the bat. But the Raptors, I still think, will find a way to compete, play hard every night, and be a solid middle-of-the-road playoff team in the East. And to me, that's a win. That's a win for this Raptors team, if you ask me.
This is Ball on Blast, part of the On Blast Podcast Network, available on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. If you like it, then subscribe and tell your friends. Holla.